Sup peeps, Rockskull here. In this video, I'll be showing you what I consider the best methods to tame every Titan on ARK Survival Ascended's Extinction. Big disclaimer for PvE players is that I'd highly recommend killing each Titan 3 times first if you want to reach the requirements for the Alpha King Titan, since if you tame first, it will not let you do the corresponding fights again if a tamed Titan is on the map. We'll start with me explaining the nodes on the Titans themselves, then get into the taming strategy for each Titan. Timestamps are on the timeline as always if you want a specific section. To tame the Titans, you have to destroy these nodes that are located on specific parts of the Titans' bodies. I wanted to have a section going in depth on these specifically, as at first glance how they actually work can be confusing, and even the online info I try to gather on them is sparse. I did some of my own testing and will do my best to sum it up here. Basically, if you're shooting the nodes on any of the Titans, yes, you can shoot the Desert Titans nodes too, and you have the floating damage text setting on, you'll see this one damage number come up. This damage is just to the Titan rather than the node itself, and the damage you do has the same mechanics as when damaging the Titans. This means mechs do increased damage to it, creatures do normal damage, and handheld weapons like fabricated snipers and stuff do reduced damage. Also, when it comes to the Desert Titan, I'm pretty sure the lightning strikes do the full damage to the nodes they do to you and your characters normally. I also did my best to calculate the health numbers for each node on each Titan since the game doesn't tell you. I'll give you my best guesses for each once we get to talking about each Titan. Disclaimer that these are just guesses from counting mech shots / lightning strikes, mainly using what was as close as possible to official server settings, and may not be completely accurate. Another very important note here is that if the Forest or Ice Titan go too far away from the center of their arenas, they will be driven back to the center and regenerate health. This includes the nodes which will be regenerated all the way back to full, so be really careful not to drive those two too far away. Let's start with what I consider the easiest tame to get out of the three, the Forest Titan. The Forest Titan is what I consider the easiest, as its taming nodes are in the simplest to reach locations and its attacks aren't very threatening as long as you're in a mech. The first two nodes you'll see are on its arms, and from my testing my guess would be they both have around 35,000 health each. Then once they are both destroyed, a chin node appears that I think has around 50,000 health. As long as you keep the Forest Titan above 2/3 health, Alpha is pretty much certain. The main moves the Forest Titan will do are its root attack, grab, poison tree seeds, a block, a stomp, and a slap. The root attack will root you in place if you're riding a tame it can grab, but luckily mechs cannot be. The grab will yoink your player off your tame and pretty much insta-kill you. But again, luckily you cannot be grabbed in the mech due to the mech cockpit buff. The next move, Poison Tree Seeds, is a legitimate threat to your mech though. These will constantly do pretty big poison damage as long as they are standing once they grow, and do have a physical hitbox that constantly gets in the way. So if you are in a mech, I recommend destroying any in your proximity. The block reduces all damage in the front of the Forest Titan, as well as making it so you are unable to damage his nodes. All you have to do is wait it out, so you can use this as an opportunity to clear poison trees. The stomp is something he can do if you're right below him for massive damage, and the slap is something he can hit you from a distance in front of him. I'd say the slap is honestly your only main threat here, as the majority of the other moves just don't affect a mech if that's your preferred strategy. Speaking of strategies, my main method I like using, as I mentioned already a bunch, is a mech. I'd highly recommend getting a better quality mech to make this easier, as using a primitive one will break your fingers with how long it takes if doing this solo. Just one of the arms took 848 shots in a primitive mech for my testing for reference. You can also use the mech siege cannon module if you have the materials for it, as direct hits with those do crazy damage, making taming easy. I should mention, for this fight in particular, you can use a Dreadnoughtus with Spitballs 2 for taming, but it's very gimmicky with the aim mechanics and can get expensive with cannonballs, so use at your own risk. The main strategy I like to use is to constantly rotate around the Forest Titan with the mech, as his pivot is super slow and gimmicky. Then whenever he goes down for the root attack, that's when you close the distance for big damage. This is also a prime opportunity to use the siege cannon if you have one of those, by the way. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Pretty simple. It just might take a little long, as his nodes have the most health out of all the Titans from my testing. The Ice Titan is what I consider the most deadly of the three Titans, as he has some fast, high damaging moves that can whittle down your health quickly if you aren't careful. When it comes to the nodes, he starts with one on his back right foot that I believe has around 25,000 health. Then it moves to his right shoulder, which I also think has around 25,000 health. After that, the final node spawns in his chest. This one I think has somewhere close to 45,000 health. You'll get alpha guaranteed if its health bar is above 2/3, whereas below you risk getting a beta or gamma Ice Titan tamed with poor stats. The Ice Titan's moves, as mentioned, can easily be the most deadly of the three Titans. Firstly, he can punch and kick in all 4 directions, including a move where he slams down both his arms in the front for the biggest damage. Additional basic attack he does is using his horn to quickly attack in front of him. This can honestly be the most deadly attack out of all of them, as there is little to no starter lag to react to really, and it has big range. Best bet is to just keep your distance to not be in range of it. Another common attack you'll see is when the Ice Titan leaps into the air, and then lands on an area for big damage. This attack actually got crazier on the switch to ASA, as the Ice Titan just seems to straight up have aimbot spot with it now, not even having to look at you. Be weary of this attack if you are a distance away from him, even if he isn't directly looking at you. Next attacks are an ice spit, and when he throws a cone of spikes in front using his right hand. These attacks can also be very deadly if you aren't careful, as those spikes and ice spit actually freeze anything they hit, including mechs. This leads to you being unable to dodge a few attacks. You have to be on the move against this boss to dodge attacks like those. The final attack, Ice Breath, is one he often does right after you destroy a node. This can also just freeze you big time like the spikes. Make sure you keep your distance right after you break a node. Just like the Forest Titan, there are two main methods I could see you using for taming here. First is the most difficult, the Dreadnoughtus Spitballs, which I wouldn't really recommend to do at all solo for the Ice Titan. The node on his back foot in particular will feel impossible to hit, and the Ice Titan in general has a lot more movement than the Dreadnoughtus. Might be able to do this if you have a friend to help you though. The other method, which I prefer, is of course a mech. The mech has a lot more movement, and you can put on the Siege Canyon module if you wish to make things easier. I'd highly recommend a better than primitive mech for this fight too, just like the Forest Titan. But unlike it, it's preferred if you have a higher health stat as well as damage. There are just some attacks the Ice Titan does that can feel undodgeable, and if you have a primitive mech health stat, this fight becomes extremely risky. Remember to do those hard and legendary OSTs to get those better quality ones. The overall strategy I have for this fight when it comes to the mech is just to constantly be on the move. Getting that first node on the foot solo can be one of the most painful things. But luckily the Ice Titan frequently gets distracted by random creatures in the area, giving you the chance to attack it. For the other two nodes, just remember to kind of keep your distance so you can dodge attacks easier, and you can sort of do the rotation strat to make the Ice Titan attack you less, as it does turn fairly slow. Not as bad as the Forest Titan though. Now the Desert Titan I'd personally consider the most difficult to tame right now, as ult strats don't work as great as they used to, and its AI has become a lot more deadly. Just like all the other Titans, it has 3 nodes. First is 2 on its wings or fins, whatever you want to call it, that you can hit straight away. Then once destroyed, a third one spawns on its tail. Node health was difficult to tell with these, since typically you just spam the lightning strikes on the nodes to destroy them. All 3 seem to take the exact same amount of about 29 shocks. This might mean they have around 30,000 health or so each, but take that with a grain of salt. Anyway, unlike the others, the nodes here function a bit differently too. You have to lightning strike the node spot first to actually be able to damage it, and then it functions like a normal node once out. It will go away if not damaged for a while, or if it does the spin move, any exposed nodes seem to reset instantly after. I recommend going in with a creature to hit a node if you miss one of the lightning strikes so it doesn't go away. As long as you keep its health over 2/3, an Alpha Desert Titan is guaranteed. Speaking of moves, the main 2 you will see it do is the flock attacks and the mentioned lightning strikes. The flock are these flying little dudes that the Desert Titan sends at you constantly. They can do big damage as well as dismount you off your tame if you aren't careful. They can be damaged and killed, but it's just best to avoid them as much as possible. The lightning strike also does some big damage if it hits you. It can also assist with destroying the nodes for taming on the Desert Titan itself, as mentioned before. You can see a timer appear on the top right if your creature is being targeted. Otherwise it's on the bottom right if it's on your player. Once a node is damaged, or if you try landing on it, you'll see it do this spin move that will knock all flyers down. It's best to just keep your distance right after a node is destroyed. Next move only seems to happen after you destroy the first node, but can be the most annoying to deal with, and that's the tail slap. It'll slap its back with its big tail for some hefty damage, and the hitbox can even reach underneath the Desert Titan. It also has a simple bite attack if you ever find yourself near the mouth for some reason. There are 2 main methods I could see you going about this: the Quetzal method and the Speedy Flyer method. The Quetzal method is similar to the OG strat, but now instead of just foundations, you have to make a physical metal box around your player with 1 foundation, 4 walls, and a roof. One of these walls you can make a secret door to get in and out. This metal box will make it so the flock dismounting you won't make you fall to your doom, but your Quetzal can still get hit by all the Desert Titan's attacks, so be careful. As long as you sort of keep on the move, as well as keep your distance from the tail, you can get this done after a while. I'd highly recommend keeping a Snowlaw around to heal your Quetzal, since you will likely get hit by Desert Titan attacks, especially the tail slap. A bit more of a risky strategy is to just use a more mobile flyer, like a Snowlaw or a Wyvern, to fly over the lightning areas as they get casted upon you. It's very important you stay on the move, as the Horde will constantly be trying to dismount you. Definitely make sure you have parachutes, tech armor, and or a gliding suit if you do this strategy, just in case you do get knocked off. That's going to conclude this video on how to tame every Titan in ARK Survival Ascended. If there are any preferred strategies you have for any of these Titans that I missed, feel free to put them in the comments. Thank you all for the support as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Rocks go, rocks go. All I want to do is stream all night. Lobby full, rocks go. Never gonna play with me, but it's alright.